Okay, this is KC50ZT. My name is Carolyn, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Do we have any emergency or priority traffic? Okay, this is a directed net, so please do not transmit without direction from net control, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC Dash R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And please remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. And before I go on, Tom, would you like to tell people about the new YouTube link? Oh, okay then. Alright, the net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, or where and when you can look through a telescope. Discussion topic of the evening, what can you see in the sky tonight? A featured constellation or object. Recent astronomical discoveries, space exploration and space history, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in, but let's start first with low power and short time check-ins. Please come with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from this evening.
Killer Golf 5 Papa, Mike and Richardson, low power.
Okay, we've got KG5P. Any other low power or short time check-ins? Okay, other than that, recognizes KG5P, and we'll go ahead then to general check-ins. Again, call sign, name, and where you're located, please.
This is November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving.
This is Kilo Echo 5, Echo November, Eric in Plano.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Sierra Mike Sierra, Alan in Dallas.
This is Alpha Bravo 5, Alpha Quebec, Steve in Valley Ranch.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Quebec X-Ray India, Glenn in Rockwell.
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto.
This is November 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William in Allen.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Okay, let me pick these up first, and then we'll have more check-ins. That recognizes N5BB, Bill, and KE5EN. Did I get that correct? And Eric, did I get that correct, Eric?
Yes, that's correct. Kilo Echo 5, Echo November, Eric in Plano.
Okay, I was afraid I'd missed the third letter in the suffix. And KE5ICX, Tom, KG5SMS, Alan in Dallas, AB5AQ, Steve, KG5QXI, Glenn, WB5OZL, Brenda, N5WOI, William, and KF5ZBL, Bill, and KG5APL, Patrick. Do we have any other general check-ins come now? All right, we will be having more check-ins, more rounds of check-ins. So let's go ahead to any Echolink check-ins.
This is WW2CBI, Ron in Fairview.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray Kelly, down in Austin tonight.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, J near Weatherford.
Kilo Bravo 5, Romeo Hotel Echo, Brian in Blue Mound.
Alright, the net recognizes WW2CBI, Ron, K5KTX, Kelly, down in Austin, KG5BZW, Jay, KB5RHE, Brian, KG5JPN, Mark in Dallas, checking in by text window. Anybody else, by any means at all, please come now. Alright then, we'll move ahead and we'll keep having rounds of check-ins as we go. First we're going to go to general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or just general interest. Alright. You can speak up if you have any. There's a couple I'd like to mention in case you're interested in satellite work. The AMSAT, that's a radio amateur satellite group, has 2 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m., you need Echolink installed and be registered, of course. But you can find this net under Groups and AMSAT. And they also have a live audio link available on their website at http://www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston. And then we have our Dallas AMSAT net. This area, every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 with a positive offset. And if you're interested, why not visit those nets? Okay, and of course we have our usual DARC nets. The first week, that'll be this week, it'll be the Ham Fictions net. That's on the first and third Mondays. The second Monday of each month is MCOM 101. The fourth Monday is GeekNet. And on Wednesdays, the first and third week, we have the Veterans net. And, of course, on Saturdays, we have the TechNet at 7 p.m. and at 9 p.m. Skynet, and then followed by the Afterglow. And every night at 6:30 p.m., we have the National Traffic System Training Net. Everybody's welcome to check into any or all of these nets. And speaking of the Afterglow, Tom, would you like to cover tonight's movie? Go ahead, KC50ZT. Okay, thank you, Tom. Alright, this is KC50ZT. Do we have anybody else wishing to check in before we move on? Please come now. Need to pull a call sign, please.
This is KG5WSN.
Okay, KG5, is it WSM or N? Please correct me and give me your name and location, please. Okay, just give me a rod. Was it Whiskey Sierra Mike? KG5, I'll say WSM, and you can correct me later if you can make it in. Welcome to the net. And K5 JDW, I see you on Echolink, and you're checked in. Anybody else before we move on? Okay, nothing heard, so moving on to the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. Do we have someone that can give those announcements, please? Okay, anyway, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas meetings are held on the fourth Friday of every month except December at the University of Texas at Dallas, campus in Richardson. The meeting begins at 7:30 p.m. in the Science Learning Center building. That's SLC on the campus map. And it's important. Only parking lots H, I, or J. Parking anywhere else on campus can get you a ticket. And there are places on the website to click for a campus map or a Google map. And the meeting includes programs presented by members, guest speakers, and a slideshow of the current constellation of the month, and items for sale such as t-shirts, books, and observing aids. And you can find out more about the TAS of Dallas at www.texasastro.org. And do we have anyone on frequency who'd like to talk about the TAS? Okay, well, anyway, the Texas Astronomical Society also hosts observing parties every Saturday night beginning at sunset, concluding around 10 p.m. Each week is a different location for observing, so make sure you get the complete details for the Saturday night you want to attend again at their website, www.texasastro.org. and select calendar in the pull down for complete details. And I'm not sure where the party was tonight, if it was. I think it's cloudy though, I'm not sure, but anyway, if anybody has any information on that, maybe you can speak up.
Well, W1XWX, hello everybody.
W1XWX, Joe, just who I was looking for. Do you want to give some information there?
Sorry, Carolyn, I got on the phone and couldn't get off. Anyway, the star party tonight was scheduled for Garland, Texas. The Stargazer star party. It was canceled due to weather. We're going to have this problem probably off and on, from now through the spring. So what you need to do is go to texasastro.org, texasastro.org, look around, click the calendar link. There's a calendar link right at the top of the page, and if you do that, you can see that it has been canceled. Any of our events that we're going to have during the month will be posted there with a little bit of information about it. So that's a great place to go if you want to find out what the Texas Astronomical Society is up to. Anyway, that's all I got. Sorry for being late. W1XWX, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Joe, and you're always welcome, no matter how late. Okay, do we have anybody else wishing to check in before I move on to the topic?
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey, Juliet, Sierra. Checked in a few minutes ago and gave the last initial wrong. New Ham, got nervous there.
Okay, KG5WJS. Were you the one who wasn't sure about the suffix WSM?
Yes, it's WSJ, Whiskey, Sierra, Juliet, David in East Dallas.
Okay, well, welcome to the net, David, and I hope you will find it enjoyable and keep checking in. Alright, tonight, moving on to our topic. As you know, of course, we had the lunar eclipse the other morning, and eclipses have always been associated with something called a Saros, S-A-R-O-S, cycle, that can predict eclipses. So I found a fascinating article by Graham Jones from Sky and Telescope that had some stuff I didn't realize, but it was very interesting. So let me reset. And so a slow, relentless rhythm known as the Saros cycle is hidden away in the movements of the moon and sun. How does it foretell eclipses? And how could Babylonians discover its existence long before modern science and technology? Now, this is back in Babylonia. With agonizing care, the astronomer worked through the data one more time. Yes, there it was, an unmistakable pattern locked with figures inscribed on the clay tablets. Dizzily, the astronomer walked to the window and gazed out at the sprawl of Babylon. A red sun and thin crescent moon hung low over the walls of the city. Got you, he thought. Now, we do not know the name of this astronomer, nor do we know precisely when, where, and how the discovery was made. But we do know that 2.5 millennia ago, a Babylonian astronomer realized that eclipses come in cycles. Now, and here they're talking about the solar. They come in cycles that are 6,585 days long. Today, Babylon, once the largest city in the world, lies in ruins. But the eclipse cycles, which we call the Saros, continue to beat their slow, relentless rhythm. And I have two maps available at time. We'll be showing the first one. Let's look at a map of last summer's Great American Eclipse from August 21st of 2017. As you can see, the path of totality, that's indicated by the narrow red line, stretched 8,000 miles across the globe from the Pacific to the Atlantic Oceans. The lighter, orange-shaded areas show where you had a partial eclipse that was visible. Now, though, let's wind the clock back. 6,585 days. And it's not that far back. It's to August 11th of 1999. Sure enough, on this day there was another solar eclipse. Some sky and telescope readers may recall it. Was a high-profile total eclipse. However, it was across the United Kingdom, Europe, the Middle East, and Southern Asia. But if you look at the map of this eclipse, we can see that the shape of the path of totality, plus the relative areas that experienced a partial eclipse, are almost identical to the Great American Eclipse last year. There are some important differences between the maps, and of course, the first and most obvious is that the 2017 eclipse took place to the west, a long way of the 1999 eclipse. This path of totality is actually shifted 1/3 of the way around the globe. And there's a reason for this. This is because the Saros cycle is actually 6,585.32 days long. And that extra 0.32 or 32/100ths of a day means that the Earth sneaks in an extra 1 spin on its axis. The second difference is that the Great American Eclipse took place very slightly to the south of the former event in 1999. There's a reason for this. The Saros cycle is not perfect. That figure of the 6,585.32 days is equivalent to 223 what's called synodic months. That's a period of time from one new moon to the other. And that is 29.5306 days each. And it's easy to just think of a time from one new moon to the next. But a solar eclipse requires more than a new moon. It also requires the moon to be aligned with the sun. And as we know, this doesn't happen every month because the moon's orbit is tilted. The period of time needed for the apparent path of the sun to carry it from the moon's ascending node to its descending node and back again is called an eclipse year, and lasts 346.62 days. These nodes are the points where the moon crosses the plane of the Earth's orbit. So 19 eclipse years is equivalent to 6,585 but 0.78 days, which is almost but not quite a perfect match with the 223 synodic months. And there's one thing to consider: the distance of the moon from Earth. The moon's orbit, of course, is elliptical, and the time it takes for the moon to go from perigee, or the closest point to Earth, to apogee, the farthest point, and back again, that has a name. It's called an anomalistic month, which lasts 27.55, I'll just round it off 5.55 days. And some 239 anomalistic months, and the total comes to the 6,584.54 days. That's just a few hours longer than the synodic months, and a few hours shorter than the 19 eclipse years. And these few hours, as small as it is, account for the small differences in the successive eclipses in a Saros cycle. But aside from that, a few little details. The eclipses from last year and the August eclipse in 1999 are essentially the same. For example, the U.S. city of Salem, Oregon is in more or less the same place on the path of totality as the UK city of Truro, Cornwall. And if you go to the Sky and Telescope site, they have an animation of the eclipses for each city that you can click on. You can click on Salem or on Truro. I did, and it's fascinating. The angle that the moon slides across the sun is the same, and it was fascinating to watch. But if you look at this animation of the eclipse for each city, you can see that even though it's separated by 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours, these two eclipses are almost identical. And this all leads to a big question now. Since these successive eclipses in a Saros cycle take place in different parts of the globe, how did the Babylonians, who didn't travel much beyond the region that is really modern-day Iraq, discover the pattern? The answer is that Saros cycles don't apply just to solar eclipses. they apply to lunar eclipses as well. And a lunar eclipse, as you know, can be observed from across half the globe. The Babylonians' clay tablets contained a record of half of all the lunar eclipses that occurred. And again, you can check the animations available on that site to demonstrate that successive lunar eclipses in a cycle are pretty much the same, such as the total lunar eclipse on January 31st from the other night, or morning, I should say, comes 163 days after the Great American Eclipse last year. And there was a total lunar eclipse on January 21st of 2000. It came, guess what? Exactly 163 days after the August 1999 eclipse. And it's sort of fascinating, and it makes it, that was how some of the early people were able to predict this. And I think some of the stone monuments, like Stonehenge and some of the other stone circles and different ancient monuments were predicted or set up, or they were used the Saros cycle to predict where to set their stones and stuff. But solar eclipses have provided scientists with glorious teachable moments, from the discovery of helium in 1868 to a proof of general relativity in 1919. And yet, it is lunar eclipses that gave astronomers one of their earliest opportunities to unlock one of nature's secrets. And who knows, perhaps to look up at the moon and sun and think, got you. But we have this cycle to predict the next eclipses. And if you think of all through history, after the discovery of this being going on, who knows how much it influenced the world. So I'd encourage you to go to Sky and Telescope and check that article and look at the animations. They're quite remarkable. And this is KC5OZT. And let me see, this is the end of the topic. Let me reset. Okay, do we have any additional check-ins at this time?
KI6LZQ.
Okay, KI6LZQ, good evening, Michael, and welcome to the net.
Good evening. I've been listening in for a little bit. Would you be able to send me some information so I could get the proper spellings for those particular names of the months of different ways of recording what a month is? Because I'm interested in following the mathematics behind it.
Okay, it's the It's okay, you know, Sky and Telescope has a website. Just a minute, let me get my paper. This was an article by Graham Jones on January 24th. If you look for that, you should be able to find it. If you can't, let me know.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and let you get back to your discussion because I find it rather interesting and would like to say thank you for your time on doing the research. Back to net. KF6LZQ.
Okay, you're welcome, and it is fascinating. All right, moving on. Let's go on to what you can see in the sky over the next couple of weeks. And Tom, I'll turn it over to you for that. Okay, thank you for that, Tom. Does anyone have any questions? Well, do we have anybody else wishing to check in? Anybody from Echolink, you can put it in the text window. Okay, nothing heard or seen, so we're going to move on to our constellation for tonight. And it is a big favorite, Canis Major, the greater dog in Latin. And it commonly represents the greater dog following the hunter Orion in Greek myth. It's usually shown as a dog standing on its hind legs, pursuing a hare, represented by the constellation Lepus that we covered last week. Canis Major was described as the dog with the blazing face, because the dog appears to hold Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, in its jaws. So, in fact, we're going to look at Sirius first. It's actually two stars. You have Sirius A and B. This Sirius, also, like I said, known as Dog Star, is the brightest star in the sky. It's also the fifth nearest star system to the sun. And it is a binary star, magnitude negative 1.42. And like I said, it's the fifth nearest. It's only 8.6 light years away. Now, the brighter component that we see is Sirius A, a white main sequence star, Class A. And it has a companion, Sirius B. Now, on the picture, that's down in the lower left-hand corner. But it's a white dwarf, Class A, and it orbits the primary every 50 years. It doesn't orbit evenly. The distance between the two varies between 8.1 and 31.5 astronomical units. That's the distance from the Earth to the Sun. It gives you an idea of the variation. And the companion is not visible to the naked eye. Sirius A has twice the mass of the Sun. It's 25 times more luminous. But little Sirius B, it's not so little, it's almost equal to the Sun in mass, and is actually one of the most massive white dwarfs known. And you wonder where Sirius got its name. Well, it comes from the Greek, which means, it's called Sirios, which means scorching, glowing, or searing. That's because in ancient times the star rose just before sunrise during the hottest summer period. It's where we get the term dog days for summer. Greeks and Romans believed the star was somehow responsible for the summer heat. In Egypt, Sirius marked the flooding of the Nile, because it's called a heliacal rising with the sun. This occurred just before the annual flooding and the summer solstice, and this played a crucial role in the Egyptian calendar. And along with the stars Rigel and Orion, Aldebaran and Tau, Capella and Auriga, Pollux and Castor in Gemini, and Procyon in Canis Minor, Sirius forms a winter hexagon, or sometimes called the winter circle, asterism, which appears prominently in the northern sky between December and March. Okay, our next star is Epsilon, also known as Adhara, A-D-H-A-R-A. The second brightest star in the constellation, and it's a binary. It's about 430 light years away. The primary component is a Class B, magnitude 1.5, and it's one of the brightest known ultraviolet sources in the sky. And its companion is about magnitude 7.5. However, for anything around about 4.7 million years ago, Epsilon was the brightest star in the sky. It was only 34 light years away, with a magnitude of negative 3.99. No other star has ever been as bright since, or is one expected to be in the next 5 million years. And then we have Tau, or Canis Majoris. It's an eclipsing binary star. It's the brightest star of a deep sky object, an open cluster, NGC 2362. And the cluster is sometimes called the Tau Canis Majoris cluster. This star is an O-type blue supergiant. It varies between magnitude 4.32 and 4.37, a little over a period of a day. But it is can be fascinating. Let me reset. And then, of course, our favorite Messier object is M41. It's a beautiful open cluster and easy to find. It's magnitude 4.5 and it's located about 4 degrees south of Sirius. It's about 25 light years in diameter, and it's between 190 and 240 million years old. It contains about 100 stars, and with the brightest one being a K-type giant located near the center. And it also contains several other red giants. And then, our next object, we have a dwarf galaxy known as the Canis Major Dwarf Galaxy. It's an irregular galaxy. It's elliptical in shape, and it's believed to be the nearest neighboring galaxy to our solar system, about 25,000 light years away, containing about 1 billion stars with a significant number of red giants, and it hasn't been known long. It was first discovered in 2003. It's difficult to observe because it lies behind the plane of the Milky Way. It's obscured by stars, dust, and gas. But they think because the galaxy's main body is highly degraded, they believe it's being severely affected by the Milky Way, its gravitational field. There are a number of globular clusters with the galaxy thought to be remnants of the dwarf's globular system before the galaxy started getting pulled apart, and it's actually being swallowed into the Milky Way. Okay, and then our next object is a pretty one. It's NGC 2359, known as Thor's Helmet. It's an emission nebula about 30 light years in size and about 15,000 light years away. This nebula is formed around a central, what's called a Wolf-Rayet star, which is an extremely hot giant about to explode as a supernova. So it might be worthwhile keeping an eye on this nebula. And there's also a nice open cluster nearby, NGC 2360, known as Caroline's Cluster. That was named for Caroline Herschel, William Herschel's sister. Our final object has you have NGC 2207 and IC 2163. But these are colliding spiral galaxies. And when galaxies get together, there's a chance of a spectacular light show. As is the case with these two. They're about 80 million light years away, with magnitudes of 12.2 and 11.6 respectively. But already 4 supernovae have been observed in them in recent decades. 1975, 1999, 2003, and as late as 2013. So it's worth keeping an eye on. The galaxies are in the process of tidal stripping, and the larger galaxy is pulling stars and other material from the smaller one. But they are a very beautiful sight if you have a scope big enough to see them, or to just look at the photographs. But Canis Major, the big dog, is a beautiful constellation and worth spending a lot of time exploring, and I hope you'll do that. KC50ZT for ID. And do we have any comments or any other check-ins?
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Uniform Whiskey, Philip from Graham, checking in.
Okay, KF5UWW, Philip and Crandall, I've got you, and I see KF5PDS on Echolink. Anybody else on Echolink that wants to check in, you can put, like I say, you can put it in the text window. Alright, we'll move on then to recent astronomical discoveries, and so WB5OZL, Brenda, I'll turn the net over to you. KC50ZT.
Thanks, Carolyn. This is WB5OZL. Our first article is entitled Astrophysicists Discover Planets in Extragalactic Galaxies Using Microlensing. A University of Oklahoma astrophysics team has discovered for the first time a population of planets beyond the Milky Way galaxy using microlensing, an astronomical phenomenon and the only known method capable of discovering planets at truly great distances from the Earth, among other detection techniques. OU researchers were able to detect objects in extragalactic galaxies that range from the mass of the Moon to the mass of Jupiter. And I'm going to mess up his name, Jinyu Dai, professor at the Homer L. Dodge Department of Physics and Astronomy, OU College of Arts and Sciences with OU postdoctoral researcher Eduardo Gutierrez, made the discovery with data from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration's Chandra X-ray Observatory, a telescope in space that is controlled by the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory. We're very excited about this discovery. This is the first time anyone has discovered planets outside our galaxy, said Dye. These small planets are the best candidate for the signature we observed in this study using the micro-lensing technique. We analyzed the high frequency of the signature by modeling the data to determine the mass. While planets are often discovered within the Milky Way using micro-lensing, the gravitational effect of even small objects can create high magnification, leading to a signature that can be modeled and explained in extragalactic galaxies. Until the study, there had been no evidence of planets in other galaxies. This is an example of how powerful the techniques of analysis of extragalactic microlensing can be. This galaxy is located 3.8 billion light years away, and there is not even the slightest chance of observing these planets directly. Not even with the best telescope one can imagine in a science fiction scenario, said Gutierrez. However, we are able to study them, unveil their presence, and even have an idea of their masses. This is very cool science. For this study, OU researchers used the NASA Chandra X-ray Observatory at the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory. The microlensing models were calculated at the OU Supercomputing Center for Education and Research. The other article is entitled, Supermassive Black Holes Can Feast on One Star per Year. CU Boulder researchers have discovered a mechanism that explains the persistence of asymmetrical stellar clusters surrounding supermassive black holes in some galaxies and suggests that during post-galactic merger periods, orbiting stars could be flung into the black hole and destroyed at a rate of 1 per year. The research, which was recently published in the Astrophysical Journal, also suggests an answer to a long-standing astronomical mystery about the behavior of eccentric stellar orbits near supermassive black holes and why the seemingly unstable dynamics survive long-term. A supermassive black hole's gravity creates a nuclear star cluster surrounding it, which gravitational physics would expect to be spherically symmetric. However, several galaxies, including nearby Andromeda, have been observed with an asymmetrical star cluster that takes the form of a disk instead. Eccentric disks are suspected to be formed in the wake of a recent merger between two gas-rich galaxies. Within the disk, each star follows an elliptical orbit that revolves around a supermassive black hole over time. The star's orbits nearly overlap and interact with each other frequently. Eventually, gravitational disruptions to one star's orbit will bring it too close to the black hole. The force builds up in these stellar orbits and changes their shape, said Associate JILA Fellow Anne-Marie Madigan, who led the study. Eventually, a star reaches its nearest approach to the black hole and it gets shredded. We predict that in a post-galactic merger period, a supermassive black hole will swallow one star per year, said co-author Heather Warnke, a CU Boulder graduate student. That's 10,000 times more often than other rate predictions. The finding bolsters observational evidence that some galaxies with supermassive black holes at their center have higher stellar mortality rates than others, and suggests that eccentric nuclear disks could be more common than initially expected. Further studies could help researchers better understand galactic mergers and the evolution of the universe. Andromeda is likely past the peak of this process, having undergone a merger long ago, said Madigan, who is also an assistant professor at CU Boulder's Department of Astrophysics and Planetary Sciences. but with higher resolution data, we may be able to find younger eccentric disks and more distant galactic nuclei. And both these are from ScienceDaily.com. So I got back to net, WB5OZL.
Okay, thank you for that, Brenda. Does anyone have any questions? All right, then, we will move on to K5KTX for space exploration and space history. And Kelly, I'll turn it over to you, KC5OZT.
Thank you, Carolyn. This is K5KTX. Good evening to everybody on the net. So this past week or so, NASA has released a really beautiful new panoramic image from Mars, and I believe Tom put a link to it in tonight's show notes. And so if you get a chance, go take a look at it. But let me tell you a little bit about it. A panoramic image that NASA's Curiosity Mars rover took from a mountainside ridge provides a sweeping vista of key sites visited since the rover's 2012 landing and the towering surroundings. The view from Vera Rubin Ridge on the north flank of Mount Sharp encompasses much of the 11-mile route the rover has driven from its 2012 landing site, all inside Gale Crater. One hill on the northern horizon is about 50 miles away, well outside of the crater. Though most of the scene's horizon is the crater's northern rim, roughly one-third that distance away and 1.2 miles above the rover. Curiosity's mass camera, or MassCam, took the component images of the panorama 3 months ago while the rover paused on the northern edge of Vera Rubin Ridge. The rover photographed the scene shortly before northern Mars's winter solstice, a season of clear skies, gaining a sharp view of the distant details. The mission has subsequently approached the southern edge of the ridge and examined several outcrop locations along the way. MassCam recorded both a wider version of the scene from southwest to northeast with its left eye, 34mm lens camera, and a more detailed, narrower version with its right eye, a 100mm lens camera. The site from which these images were taken sits about 1,073 feet in elevation above Curiosity's landing site. Since leaving that site, the rover has climbed another 85 feet in elevation. In recent days, the MassCam has recorded component images for a panorama looking uphill, southward, toward the mission's next major destination area. That is called the clay unit because observations from orbit detected clay minerals there. Last week, the Curiosity team on Earth received copious new images from the rover through a record-setting relay by NASA's MAVEN orbiter, surpassing a gigabit of data during a single relay session from Mars for the first time in history. Most data from Curiosity through the years have been relayed to Earth by NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, or MRO, and the Mars Odyssey orbiter, which fly in nearly circular, nearly polar orbits, predictably passing over Curiosity at about the same times every day. MAVEN flies an elliptical orbit varying more than 40-fold from its nearest to farthest point from Mars. This suits MAVEN's science focus on Mars's atmosphere, but results in variable coverage for relaying rover data. Usually, MAVEN passes over rover locations when the distance is too large for optimal relays. However, during occasional periods when the low point of its orbit is near Curiosity's location on Mars, the relays can serve exceedingly well. The team is preparing to resume use of Curiosity's drill for acquiring powdered rock samples to be analyzed by laboratory instruments inside the rover, more than a year after the most recent of the 15 times the drill has pulled sample material from Martian rocks. The rover team intends to put Curiosity's drill to work on Vera Rubin Ridge before proceeding to the clay unit. Resuming use of the drill requires an enterprising workaround for a mechanical problem that appeared in late 2016 and suspended use of the drill. A motor within the drill that advances the bit relative to stabilizer points no longer operates reliably. The workaround being evaluated thoroughly on a test rover at JPL does not use the stabilizer points. It moves the whole drill forward with bit extended by motion of the robotic arm. And in other news, or I guess you'd say a little bit of history news, tick, tick, tick. The device, a Geiger counter strapped to a miniature tape recorder, was registering radiation levels 1,000 times greater than anyone expected. As the instrument moved higher, more than 900 miles above the surface, the counts ceased. Scientists were baffled. It was early 1958. The United States had just launched its first spacecraft, and a new discipline of physics was about to be born. 60 years ago last Wednesday, the United States launched its first satellite into space. Dubbed Explorer 1, the spacecraft followed just months after the Soviet Union's Sputnik 1 and 2 spacecraft commenced the space age. Data captured by the Geiger counter aboard Explorer 1 heralded the emergence of space physics and ushered in a new era of technology and communications. Above Earth's atmosphere, the radiation picked up by the instrument aboard Explorer 1 wasn't of earthly origin. In fact, it was from a region scientists previously considered largely void of particles. Prior to launch, scientists expected to measure cosmic rays, high-energy particles primarily originating beyond the solar system, which they had previously studied with ground and balloon-based instruments. But what they found far outpaced the levels of radiation that would be expected from cosmic rays alone. The radiation recorded by Explorer 1 was humanity's first glimpse of Earth's radiation belts, two concentric rings of energetic particles surrounding the planet. The inner belt, composed predominantly of protons, and the outer belt, mostly electrons, would come to be named the Van Allen belts, after James Van Allen, the scientist who led the charge designing the instruments and studying the radiation data from Explorer 1. The outer belt is made up of billions of high-energy particles that originate from the sun and become trapped in Earth's magnetic field, an area known as the magnetosphere. The inner belt results from interactions of cosmic rays with the Earth's atmosphere. Satellites that unwittingly or intentionally venture into the belt can be damaged by the radiation, which could have an impact on unprotected astronauts as well. Understanding the dynamics of this region is essential for protecting technological assets and planning crewed space missions. Six years later, scientists are still working to understand the peculiar and puzzling nature of the Van Allen belts. In 2012, NASA launched the twin Van Allen probes to study particle behavior in the dynamic region. Equipped with superior radiation-hardened technology, the Van Allen probe's instruments go far beyond Explorer 1's Geiger counter to observe particles, waves, and fields in the radiation belts. From the beginning, the Van Allen probe set a pace of rapid discovery. Within days of their launch, the probe found the void between the inner and outer belts, which was thought to be empty, was occupied by a third temporary belt. The third belt lasted just a month, but appeared again later in the mission with major solar activity. Explorer 1's discovery 6 decades ago paved the way for new generations of spacecraft to explore the radiation belts. Today, with the help of other missions like CEMUS and the MMS missions, NASA scientists are continually unveiling new secrets in our magnetic space neighborhood. Multi-point observations are essential to understanding the belt's dynamics, and in 2016, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, launched the satellite Ares to cooperate with the Van Allen probe's mission in studying the radiation belts. A new CubeSat mission, the Compact Radiation Belt Explorer, or SERIES, is scheduled to launch in April of this year to work in conjunction with the Van Allen probes studying the interactions between plasma waves and electrons in Earth's upper atmosphere. atmosphere. And this is K5KTX in space history for this last week, starting with January the 30th back in 1961. The newly inaugurated President, John F. Kennedy, delivered his first State of the Union address. In the address, he discussed his plans for Cold War diplomacy, saying, "This administration intends to explore promptly all possible areas of cooperation with the Soviet Union and other nations to invoke the wonders of science instead of its terrors." Specifically, he hoped that the United States and the USSR could join together in preparation for probing the distant planets of Mars and Venus, an endeavor he believed may someday unlock the deepest secrets of the universe. Unfortunately, President Kennedy's interest in cooperation with the USSR was not reciprocated. Instead, about 4 months later, he threw down the gauntlet of the race to the moon. You probably remember the key line from that May 1961 speech. "I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth." And finally, on January the 31st, back in 1958, as I just mentioned, it is the 60th anniversary of the launch of America's first satellite. Explorer 1 was launched from Cape Canaveral on January the 31st, 1958. The satellite was only 80 inches long and had a cosmic ray detector designed to measure the radiation environment in Earth's orbit. Though the satellite made its final transmission in May of 1958, it stayed in orbit until 1970 and completed more than 58,000 orbits during its time in space. And that's all I've got tonight, Carolyn. This is K5KTX. Back to you.
Thank you for that, Kelly. And this is KC50ZT. Does anyone have any questions? All right, Tom, do we have any nice satellite passages over the next couple of days? Okay, thank you for that, Tom. And with that, does anyone have any questions or answers on anything astronomical? Okay, nothing heard, so we'll have one last round of final check-ins for anybody. Please come now. Nothing heard, so tonight we had 25 hams participating on the air. Thank you to all who checked in this evening, and we hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. Remember, on this net, the sky is never the limit. And we're always looking for net control stations for this and the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@W5FC.org. And you can follow the topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to W5FC.org. So until next Saturday night, this is KC50ZT, Carolyn, and I will be closing the net at 10:28 p.m. local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening and a lot of evenings discovering the universe. KC50ZT.
Afterglow Movie Net.
This is W5OZL, your net control for Afterglow. It's 10:30 now. Why don't we reconvene here at 10:35? W5OZL.
November Tango 5, Tango mic testing. Oh, it sounds like that worked. NT5TM clear.
I can hear you, Tony. It's BB.
Bill, NT5TM.
This is W5OZL, and we are here for the weekly installment of Afterglow. Tonight we have a classic movie, 1936, H.G. Wells' story called, I blanked on it, it's called Things to Come. And I always get confused because it's based on a book called The Shape of Things to Come. So I'm always trying to switch back and forth between those two phrases. Anyway, we're gonna, I tell you what, let's let Tom General do his usual synopsis of this and tell us a little bit about it, and then we'll go around and ask for check-ins and ask if people have seen the movie, and then we'll go make another round and start talking about this movie, which, in my opinion, was very intriguing. All right, KE5ICX, do you have some wisdom for us? Tom. Before we get started, do I have a volunteer to keep an eye on Echolink and let me know what's going on over there?
If no one else can, I'll try NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. NT5TM, and I will just go ahead and check you in. And did you see the movie, Tony?
Yes, I did. NT5TM.
Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead and take short time and low power check-ins at this point. Please come now. Okay, let's have general check-ins.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
Kilo Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango.
Alpha Bravo 5, Alpha Quebec.
Okay, N5BB, Bill, did you see the movie?
Oh, I forgot. Yes. I have seen the movie at least twice. The latest was today. I viewed the free version on the internet, which I realize is not the maybe best copy. N5BB.
Very good. Case C5OZT. Carolyn, did you see the movie?
Yes, I watched the movie on YouTube, K5OZT.
Okay, and Alpha Bravo 5, Alpha Quebec. I didn't get your name, and did you see the movie?
This is AB5AQ. Name is Steve. No, I did not see the movie. I'm interested in learning about it from the stations on board tonight. AB5AQ.
Alrighty, well, it's easy to find and watch free on YouTube, so you can may want to go back and do that later. Okay, do we have any check-ins on Echolink?
Bravo 5, Romeo, Hotel Echo, Brian.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman.
This is WW2, CBI, Ron, and Fairview.
November 5, Yankee, Echo Oscar, Stephen, San Antonio.
Okay, WB5RHE, Brian, did you see the movie?
Everyone in the net. Call sign is Kilo Bravo 5 Romeo Hotel Echo. And name here is Brian, and I'm in North Fort Worth. I'm about 10 miles north of the city. I did not see the movie, but like the other guy, I'm interested in seeing what everybody has to say. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Net Control. Kilo Bravo 5 Romeo Hotel Echo.
KKB5RHE, thank you, Brian. And KF5PDS. Billy, did you watch it?
Evening, Brenda. No, I did not get a chance to see it, so I'll be listening. And I guess if I have a comment, I will say in the chat window. So for now, I'll just listen. This is KF5PDS.
Okay, WW2 CBI. Ron, did you see the movie?
This is Ron, WW2CBI. I saw the movie some years ago. I haven't seen it recently, so I'm going to be interested to see what the group opinion is of it. This is WW2CBI.
Okay, N5YEO. David, did you see the movie?
No, it's Steve. No, I didn't. Unfortunately, I just woke up from a nap. I didn't know it was going to be that long with it. I made it, woke up, and here I am. And unfortunately, no, I did not get a chance to see it. However, I will be just the audience tonight listening to see what everybody else thinks about the movie. Back to net. N5YEO.
Okay, is your name David or Steven? Well, I guess we've lost him. Anybody else want to check in? Go ahead.
Kilo Golf 5, Yankee Bravo Oscar, David, Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Tango Sierra Kilo, Berlin, Dallas. I did see the movie.
And November Tango 5, Tango Mike with a relay.
NT5PM, go ahead.
Sure. Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J would like to check in, but he does not expect to have any comments tonight. He didn't get to watch the movie and will just be listening. NT5TM.
Thank you very much, KB5BZWJ. And we also have KF5TSK Burl. And David, your signal's a little low, so I missed half your call. If you please come back with that.
This is KG5Y. I'm trying a different antenna on my mobile. I'm in downtown Dallas. Is this any better?
Slightly. KG5YBO. Did you see the movie?
No, I did not, but I intend to. And incidentally, this is my first ham transmission. I got my license call sign from FCC 2 days ago.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to the net. Okay, any other check-ins now?
Kilo Delta 5 India Zulu Foxtrot.
KD5IZF. I believe your name is Dave. Did you see the movie, sir?
No, I did not.
Alrighty, well, we'll take this later. This is a pretty good group of check-ins. So, what we normally do is start asking what you think about the plot. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but that's kind of a good jumping off point. So we'll start at the top and go on down. And Tom, KE5ICX, what did you think about the plot of this movie? Okay, thanks, Tom. NT5TM, tell us your thoughts on this movie.
Well, thank you, Brenda. I will try to start with the plot. This movie is almost all plot. I'll come to that in a second round. It's actually surprising how short it is, given how sweeping the plot is. We start in what was then the present day, move to war and calamity, and then eventually come to a brighter future. The movie is all plot. It is a movie whose human characters are entirely an excuse to have a plot, and it's the plot that is supposed to make the editorial point to the movie. Some science fiction writers were very skeptical. They were kind of looked at the future, but really didn't have much hope for it. Ray Bradbury, for example, was a great skeptic of technology. But Wells wasn't. Wells's career was really that he was a socialist journalist. He was not really a fiction writer for his only role in life. He was a journalist and a politician. And the whole plot of this story in the movie was there to make the point that technology could bring us to a better utopia after human ambition and various human flaws brought us to endless calamity and plague and disaster. I really, unfortunately, don't agree with the plot of this movie. I think that the same cannon that could fire a rocket ship to the moon could also work perfectly well as the main armament of a Death Star. Just to pick another science fiction movie with perhaps a little bit of success you might have heard of. So I really honestly think he was completely wrong. But the movie does really wrap its plot around his point as effectively as it can. So this is an all-plot movie, and that really is what you have to get into if you're going to watch it. NT5TM.
Okay, thank you, Tony. N5BB. Bill, go ahead.
Thank you. This is N5BB. Well, this movie is all plot, but it's not the kind of plot you find in most movies where there's a particular protagonist that, and a set of characters that continue through the whole movie, because this movie has, I guess, about 3 generations of characters. Anyway, excuse me. The interesting thing about the plot was this movie was written about 5 years before the start of World War II, and it was released about 3 years before the start of World War II. Okay, it's one very interesting thing about it to me is that it described what was then imagined future of heavy bombing from the air, which was had not been done to that point in any significant amount, and of course really defined World War II. So I think H.G. Wells got it right on there on the plot. It's always interesting looking at movies that predict the future. It seems like there's some things they overpredict and other things they underpredict. A lot of movies, from the 50s were predicting we'd be on Mars and way out in space, in the 60s. There's a little overprediction there. Or to other stars not too far afterward. Even 2001: A Space Odyssey kind of over-predicted there. But H.G. Wells kind of under-predicted certain things. The airplanes in 1940, when the movie's kind of starting, were biplanes largely, and small, and open cockpit kind of things. And he did predict the big super bomber things, but that was for the distant future. And in the year the movies was released, they were working on the B-17. It was released shortly afterward. So it was a bomber which was much closer to the thing in, decades later in the movie, but it was used in Europe less than a decade after that. So anyway, they also didn't predict television in any sense until many, many decades in the future, while television was in wide use 20 years from the time the movie was released. Another interesting thing is he didn't predict very much electronics. It's all mechanical things. H.G. Wells seemed like machinery. So during the middle part of the movie, you have all these things showing all this mechanical machinery, building buildings and all that kind of stuff. And the space gun was a very mechanical kind of thing, and there's meters and hydraulic things, but no real electronics. So that's kind of interesting too. And again, radio, no television. And only at one point was there a little wrist radio communicator. That's far in the future, but of course we're quite a bit beyond that now. No computers. Anyway, that's all for now. In 5BB.
Hey, thanks, Bill. KC5OZD. Carolyn, what did you think?
Well, I thought it was a very, you might say, soul-searching plot. The beginning, especially, that was foretelling, in London and in England, the Blitz that came with the beginning of the war. And remember, the war in England started around 39, before we got into it, and I remember I've read stories and all about the Blitz, and that reminded me of that. Let me reset. And as they got on into the 60s and 70s, with all, like Bill said, with all the machines, and you didn't see a lot of caring, seemed like, between the characters, like you're used to in movies. But maybe that was just to illustrate, the effects of war. And of course, as they went on, there was a lot of, using horses, and it showed how far the society had fallen, or I thought, and yet mixed with, the planes and stuff, and then toward the end with the, you can't say rocket ship, the gun, but, it sort of has been the way we've sort of evolved, just faster, but going through World War II, then the Cold War, and technology, even though they didn't show us a lot of what we've got, and then looking to this space flight finally, that was sort of the way it struck me, sort of parallel to what has really happened, but not like what has really happened. I think that's all for now, KC50ZT.
Thank you, Carolyn. 85AQ. Steve, I know you didn't see the movie, but do you have any comments? Okay, nothing heard. Excuse me, KB5RHE. Brian, same thing. I know you didn't see it, but do you have anything to add to the discussion?
KB5RHE. Well, I mean, it kind of just sounds like kind of what I thought with that writer or the director or whoever it was. H.G. Wells, I guess the guy's name. That's pretty much what I figured I'd be hearing, you know, when I think about that guy. I don't know, I'm fairly young. I'm not 40 yet. I'll turn 40 this year, so the H.G. Wells stuff might be a little bit, you know, a little bit past me, I guess I could say, but yeah, it's interesting. It's good stuff. Appreciate it. And shoot, I'll turn it back to net control. Kilo Bravo 5, Romeo Hotel Echo.
Okay, thank you for your comments. KF5PDS, Billy, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add, just going to be listening. This is KF5TDS.
Okay, WW2CVI, Ron, do you have anything to tell that you'd like to share with us? Nothing heard. KG5YBO, David. I know you didn't see it, but do you have anything that you, any opinions you'd like to offer?
No, it sounds interesting, and I'm definitely going to watch it tonight. KG5YBO.
Okay, KF5TSK, Burl. You did see the movie. Give us your opinion, please.
Well, the beginning of the movie, I wasn't that happy with it. It seemed like, well, this is just another war movie, but to me, it really had two plots. It's like it started in everything seemed to be from World War I. Their helmets, the uniforms, everything they did. One of the things about World War I is they had trench warfare, and I think when they went to war, it's like they really didn't plan to leave. They planned to stay for the rest of their lives. And I look at the futuristic part of it, and it's like they really didn't have any limits. You know, I think now about the space program. If we say we want to go to Mars, someone will say, where are we going to get the money? And I look at it, the airmen wings over the world, that mechanics and engineers, you know, what do you expect? They were going to build things, and look like they just kept building things, and it's like, well, we just don't know what to do next. And it's like, you know, they really didn't spend that much time on architecture or art, culture, or anything that was, you know, seemed to be very boring. future is like, it's, you know, everything was very modern, kind of like the, you know, the prompts for 1936 I thought was very good. That, you know, I don't know how they did it with camera angles and so forth, but I was very impressed with that part of it. Can't find TSK back to net.
All right, thanks, Burl. And KD5IZF, Dave, you did not see the movie, but do you have anything to say? Okay, I guess not. All right, it's time for my 2 cents. It's fascinating concepts and certainly worth debating. I don't agree with everything. It's like a lot of utopian stories. Somebody says, oh, if only we did this, then society would be wonderful. So if we just build all these big technological things, then people will lose their desire to go to war. Frankly, I don't think that will happen given the history of mankind. It's a nice theory, but I'm not buying it. The next thing is, I think that technology develops is directly proportional to a society's commitment to the war that they are in. Like in World War II, we started the war flying training in Stearman, barely past World War I technology. Before a decade was out, our pilots were flying jets and helicopters, and before another decade was out, we had giant planes with nukes on them. So we put so much effort into that technology that it just went in leaps and bounds. Then you have Vietnam, where there wasn't a whole lot of technological development for our nasty little war over there that we didn't want to talk about. And people didn't really even have the will to win. So, or at least our leaders didn't. So, historically, technology tends to be what wins wars. And the idea that these people would go decades and decades, and their only development in airplanes, well, there was no development. They were still using World War I technology airplanes, which, frankly, World War I air power as a war tool is highly overrated. It's glamorous, it's fun, but in terms of winning battles, not much. They shot each other down and they did reconnaissance. They didn't drop bombs on people or trains or ammo dumps. And these people went decades and no airplane development at all. In many ways, their technology did stagnate communications and transportation and just, you know, everything in general. So I find that part a little bit unbelievable. What I did like is all the Art Deco sets. That was wonderful. And, you know, they were huge. I don't know how, what they were doing with all that huge equipment, but it looked real important. Okay, let's start over at the top, and why don't you just tell me maybe what your favorite and least favorite thing was about this movie. Tom, KE5ICX, go ahead. Okay, Tony, NT5TM, your most and worst favorite things.
Brenda, I think for both Aaron and I, our favorites were visuals. Tom is absolutely right. Given, Metropolis in 1927, and I think this was actually in production in 1934, there's no excuse for all the bad special effects of the 50s and 60s because there weren't good special effects available. It wasn't an effect, but I loved in the dystopian post-war world when we saw an old 30s limo being pulled by horses. It made me think of Mad Max. I just loved that. It was a wonderful piece of visual storytelling. For Aaron, she was most struck by the people moving around on the space gun set. That was really well integrated. At one point they were climbing up a ladder. The people were really used well. Very visual. Again, another good moment of visual storytelling to show the scale of that artifact. I don't know what Aaron's least favorite was, but for me it was, boy, I sure wish there were some characters in this. This was a wonderful piece of art direction and visual effects, but as a story, politically it was engaging, but personally, oh man, I can't tell you who my least favorite character was because I can't name them. That's my least favorite. I wish there'd been some characters I could attach to. NT5TM.
Okay, Bill, N5BB, best and worst.
Thanks, Brenda. This is N5BB. I agree the visuals were the best. I really think it was amazing what they did. Some parts of it reminded me a little bit of the Fritz Lang Metropolis kind of things, or things of that nature. I agree with you, Tony. The large sets with them climbing and huge numbers of people were amazing technological accomplishments to make those special effects look so realistic. And I agree with you. The effects in this movie were better than a lot of movies. 30 years. I mean, mid-60s. Some of their things were really hokey. And things on TV, Lost in Space and things. You think of all these really silly things. They're in color, but they're really stupid things. And this movie just really shined in making things look realistic. The big space shooting machine was, pretty well done. You could kind of believe that they were really putting something in there that they were going to use as a shooting machine to accelerate them up there. It looked like it could do it. They had this huge, humongous crane lowering it in their little capsule. They strapped themselves into the capsule, and at the bottom there was some kind of mechanism that kind of moved it up and down a little bit, little shock absorber looking things. It all looked real. Also in the city, the underground city, there were little vehicles that moved around, and it looked moderately realistic, although sterile. I agree. No art, no real. Well, it wasn't a color movie, but you didn't feel like there was any color if the color had existed. It just didn't look like that. And like a lot of these utopian kind of futuristic movies, everybody seems to be kind of ants. They don't have any personality until there's one rabble-rouser that gets everybody behind them and they kind of mass move around. They don't seem to have individual personalities. They're just all kind of worker bees or something. That kind of bothered me. One interesting thing was Roxana, I guess was her name, the Margarita Scott character, who was the warlord's, I don't know if she was the queen, but she was kind of standing by him and acting like they were a couple or something. And she had a very strong personality, and I noticed she said at one point, "Oh, I wish I were a man." And that was kind of interesting little thing thrown in there, but you will notice that the only people who did anything were men. She was the only one character that had any ambition at all that was a woman. So the women kind of got short-shifted in this. They weren't technological. They didn't work on the airplanes. They didn't fly the airplanes. They had nothing to do with any of that. So very traditional that way. I noticed at one point the futuristic people that were kind of rising up, one of the characters said, "Oh, what have we accomplished?" And they mentioned that they had beat away all the dark races or something and become an all white. I don't know if you noticed that, but there's a little mention of that, kind of like they were a all white society, which they were. They were they were lily white. So that was another thing that bothered me. It was kind of predicting a very racist future. And in fact, the present back then was completely one-sided. They didn't talk about what was going on in other parts of the world and other people, and that bothered me. All I got for now in 5BB.
Okay, yeah, well, most old movies, women serve coffee, and they don't fight the wars, and they don't go on the spaceships, and, they're just big auxiliary people. But it was the times. Okay, KC5OZT, Carolyn, what do you think?
Well, there was, of course, something I enjoyed was, of course, watching the planes, biplanes, and then those bombers that they developed and brought in later, I couldn't see how they were aerodynamically right to fly. They didn't seem to be, but they were. But of course, that was the facts. And at the end, then, when they were, you might say, loading the gun, I enjoyed seeing that little gyroplane dropping the capsule down into the gun. Although it seemed to have the propeller in the back instead of the front, like every gyroplane I've ever seen a picture of had it in the front. But now that did wonder about that. But that was anyway. It was interesting seeing that, and then of course, there was so many technological things, that can't even begin to name them, but it was interesting. And then, of course, like some others pointed out, though, a drawback, it didn't seem to have many women or much personal relationship. Except then where he let that leader let his daughter be the one to go in the capsule and go to the moon. That was sort of a personal moment, and but It was interesting, though. That's the best way to put it. KC50ZT.
Alrighty, do we have anybody out there that wants to check in for the first time? Okay, moving on down the list. I'm not going to pick up people that said they don't have anything to say, but at some point we'll let you jump in if you decide you do. WW2CBI Ron, what do you have? KF5TSK, do you have any more comments?
This is KF5TSK. I do have some more comments. One, I would say that it seems that from every town to the future, it seems like they have outlawed independent thought, thinking every town that, they were fighting, but they really didn't know who they were fighting. It was like, well, we're just fighting the next town over, and it's like, I think the boss or the chief, it almost seemed like he was enjoying his position, and it's like, the war lasted from 1936, up to 1970. So I had the, impression that he was just enjoying his position. Another thing, too, it seems like airmen of the wings over the world, they had outlawed the nations. And so it's almost like through the whole movie that independent thought was outlawed in one way or another. And I think that's the only thing that really ties the movie together, but it doesn't really, it's almost like you shift from every town to the future, and it's almost like black and white. It's that, dramatic change. KF5TSK back to net.
All right. Does anybody that I've skipped over want to jump in, and do they think of something to say, or do we have any more, any new check-ins? Please go ahead. Okay, well, I just think the whole ideas were intriguing, even though I don't necessarily agree with a lot of them. There aren't any real utopian situations. What I really liked were the sets and music, even though the music was a little over the top. I would imagine most of this was stock footage from World War I. I don't think you could make a movie on any budget if you started from scratch. I had not seen any old war movies, that old. I wasn't even sure they had made any, so I went and did some research. The first war films were done in 1898 during the Spanish-American War. They were little short things, about 10 minutes long. And then there were lots of movies of all kinds, anti-war movies, pro-war movies, comedic war movies. Throughout the early stages of film, there were just lots and lots of them. I'm not such a big fan of really old films, or don't know where to see them. And was kind of surprised how many there were. And
So, even the old silent movies, I don't know where this falls in line with when they started doing the talkies, but anyway. I thought the costumes were a hoot. Those shorts, that was hysterical. And somebody was really having a good time with the Art Deco clothing to go with the Art Deco architecture. All right, I'm going to stop there. What we're going to do now is just jump in if you have anything to say, rather than going down the list again, and we'll see where it goes. And any topic that you might want, please go ahead.
In 5BB.
In 5BB, go ahead.
Responding to Carolyn's comments about the airplanes, there were pusher planes back in the 30s and later, and there's actually some small planes that are pushers with the blades in back now. And the way I saw those big planes is they had pullers in the front and pushers in the back, I believe. I think they're blades on both sides. And there actually were some planes that were designed, some thoughts about designs of large airplanes that were like that. Those airplanes were huge. I don't know if you noticed when people were getting into the planes, they were extremely large. So, this was kind of an interesting concept there. One weird thing about the airplanes is they had an open deck where the guys there's like a railing, and they were kind of looking over the railing, which didn't make much sense to me, but back at that time in the early 30s, they really didn't have a concept of a pressurized closed cabin in an airplane. BB.
Very true. Okay. Who would like to go next?
Well, KC5OZT.
KC5OZT, go ahead.
Well, I agree, there were some pusher planes, like you said, but I checked, when I saw that Gyro plane, I checked my World War II Spiders handbook, and every Gyro plane in there had the propeller and maybe some people don't know about gyro planes, but they had a rotor on top to lift up, and then another propeller in front, at least on every one that was listed in that book, then to go forward. But it was a precursor to the helicopters, but I haven't found a picture of one anyway that had the rear propeller. I have seen other planes though that had them, but it was fascinating though watching that. H5OZT.
Yeah, well, one of the first things they did with planes after World War I, or some before, is explore. It opened up the world, Antarctica and Africa. And these people seemed a little bit uncurious as to what was out there. Aviation really made the world small, and these people didn't seem to know there was a world outside of their little village to speak of. Okay, who else would like to talk?
NT5TM.
NT5TM, go ahead, Tony.
Thank you, Brenda, and thank you, everybody. I love it when we do these good movies because we all get talking and thinking about them. It's tough to make predictions, especially about the future, one of my favorite Yogi Berraisms, and that's really funny because I love looking at movies and the things they predict and don't predict yet. No rocket propulsion, no jet propulsion, even though there's been experiments in those areas by this time. Nope, everything's got propellers, big propeller-powered flying wings. Everything's got propellers. I mean, people just could not conceive of airplanes without propellers. One of the economists who was sent to tour Germany after World War II to evaluate the effects of the bombing campaign by the Allies saw a line of Me-262s parked by the side of a taxiway or a road, I forget which, and he honestly thought that the German industry had failed so badly that they were delivering unfinished airplanes without propellers. He just couldn't conceive of, they must have been misdelivered. I don't know what's wrong. Airplanes have propellers. He doesn't know better because there have already been jet planes in combat, but oh well. It must have been hard to make a movie that has war. Yes, but so many movies later use stock footage from World War II or the Vietnam or the Korean War, and of course those things hadn't happened yet, so there was no stock footage to draw on. It was also pretty amusing how apparently in the future we might have learned the ability to go to the moon, but we forgot how to make pants. Everyone was wearing those very, very short toga-like things, and let me tell you, those actors' legs did not look good with no pants. They're all really scrawny. No physical education for the architects of the future, says Eric. So yeah, it's just fun, the things people predict and don't predict. Even when if I take back from looking at the movie seriously, it's just a fun game to play. What did they predict and what did they not predict? No rockets, no jets. Everything has propellers. They sort of had television screens. We see little things like a desktop screen with moving pictures on it, but yeah, they're still clearly thinking of everything in terms of radio. No art anywhere, as in 5BB said, which is really weird. No pants. Man, I'd really miss pants. It gets cold in the winter. This is MT5T. I'm playing the prediction game.
Yeah, it's such a luxury. This is W5FC. Well, the guy with the big cape and the big thing across his shoulders reminded me of that Carol Burnett scene where she's wearing curtain rods as a cape. It just struck an image to me there. Okay, who else? Go ahead, please.
KG5YBO. I think Carol's line was, I just saw that in the window and I had to have it.
Yeah, did you have other comments as well?
Yes. Well, having not seen the movie, I think I understand the theme even beforehand. It seems like it echoes kind of the timeline variations that we often see in technologies and in politics, in social arenas. And the technology side reminded me of the, I think it's 2004 Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow, kind of a steampunk, sort of old-looking things that implemented newer technologies, and the variations in technologies that happen, that don't happen. It's sort of like history repeating itself, but in slightly different ways, but it's kind of still the same. KG5YDO.
Alrighty, who else would like to talk? KE5ICX. Go ahead, Tom. Okay, thank you. One thought occurred to me, the wandering plague looks like maybe the first time we saw zombies on the screen. I didn't quite get that. You get really sick, and about the time you're ready to die, you get up and start wandering around. It just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Okay, anybody else? This is WB50ZL.
NT5TM, History of Aviation comment.
NT5TM.
Poor Tom distracted me by saying interesting things. I did look up that one of the first successful widely produced autogyros in 1931 did have a rear pusher engine. So they definitely did exist. Those two designs have apparently been competing each other, tractor or pusher, competing with each other in autogyros since about 1931. So that option was there, NT5TM.
Related comment, N5BB?
Go ahead, N5BB.
Yeah, I found several photographs of both old and new helicopters. So I don't think there was an autogyro. When the thing was on the ground, it pushed forward with the fan in the back. So I think it was a helicopter with a pusher. I believe that's what it was. Also, with regards to the humongous airplanes they had, go and do a Google search for the B-36. That's a humongous airplane that had 6 huge propeller pusher engines on it. And the Russians had some even larger ones. So, you know, a lot of those things they had there were actually, by the 1950s, they were in production. Early 1950s. So it wasn't all that far in the future. Like I think Tom said, they hadn't invented jet engines, or it wasn't in H.G. Wells' mind. N5BB.
Yes, indeed. There used to be a B-36 that lived in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Its name is the City of Fort Worth. And the people over in Fort Worth tried to get funding to get shelter over it and never could, and we ended up losing it, and it went out of state. But somebody one time said to me, well, why don't you take it to your museum? So I said, you know what? I did some measurements. You're all familiar with the Frontiers of Flight Museum. I said if we put it on our roof, one wing would stick out over 11th Avenue, and the other wing would stick out over the airport, over into the AOA. So it gives you some scale of how big they are. They're almost unimaginable. All right, I think we're going to start wrapping it up here. Any last comments before we go? Any final check-in? All right. Thank you all for participating. It was a great net and very fascinating. Before we go, Tom, do you have anything on next week's movie? where we're going to wrap up this net here. It's 23:54. And we will see you guys next time. This is W5OZL.